As the Archdiocese of Cincinnati continues to evolve, we are fulfilling the Lord's mission by embracing a vibrant future. Archbishop Dennis M. Schnurr talks with Father Len Wenke, Director of the Department of Pastoral Services for the Archdiocese, about hope and faithfulness during changing times.
Archbishop, thanks for taking the time to
You're
sit
welcome.
with me today
to
talk about the church in the pastoral regions. How would you describe the current situation in our church?
Well, in the church, we can talk about the church as an archdiocese, we can talk about the church universally, and we can talk about the church in this country. And what I find in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati is what I find throughout the United States, and I'm sure is true throughout the world, is that we face challenges today in the church. But this isn't a matter of real concern. It doesn't have to be, because look at the history of the church. There has always been challenges in the church. But the thing that we need to focus on is the fact that when Christ brings challenges, Christ also brings the grace and the talent that is needed. As I go around the Archdiocese, I'm aware that the challenges are there. But I'm also aware of what people are already doing to address those challenges, and we look to what more we can be doing. We're moving forward. We're moving forward prayerfully, asking God's guidance. And in my mind, we have every reason to believe we have a future full of hope because of what is already happening and what more we can do and are committed to doing.
Is there a story in the Scriptures that might encourage us and support us?
The day of the resurrection, we have the story of two of Christ's disciples on the road to Emmaus. They had followed Christ, they had their expectations of what Christ's ministry was going to look like, and then comes the passion and death. And then they also say, well, we've heard these things, there's an empty tomb, and we can't figure out what this is all about. And a stranger appears to them. And of course, the stranger is Christ, but they don't recognize him. And Christ takes them back into Scripture, explains Scripture to them, and says to them, don't you understand this? And then, of course, in the breaking of the bread, they recognize Christ. And they go back. They turn around to Jerusalem. The greeting that they get when they get back to Jerusalem is, Christ is alive. Jesus is alive. He is with us. And Jesus is alive. He is with us today.
How do you connect this with the current situation in the church?
In a very similar way. We see the challenges, and we, like those two disciples on the road to Emmaus, we probably have our notions of how the church should move forward, and we struggle to try to figure out, well, how can the mission of Christ be fulfilled in light of the challenges that we see today? But then we have to also look at the fact that we have lay people who are receiving certification, they're receiving degrees in theology, pastoral work, many other areas, youth work, many work areas. And they are serving our parishes in volunteer positions. They are serving our parishes in professional positions. Look at the number of permanent deacons that we have today that we did not have prior to the Second Vatican Council. We have more seminarians studying for the Archdiocese of Cincinnati today than what we've had in 10 years. And so this is a time of grace and growth for this archdiocese.
And it seems as though it's the fruit of the prayer of the people and the concern for the folks and what's happening in the church, without any question.
No doubt about it.
Can we talk a little bit about the pastoral regions that are operative in the diocese, how they came about?
The pastoral regions are surfaced from a part of a study that Archbishop Pilarczyk called for in 2005. And they were called for because of the realization that we do indeed have fewer priests, and that it will not be possible to name a pastor to every one of the 215 parishes in this archdiocese. That pastors will be asked to serve more than one, to provide leadership for more than one parish. And so the plan was put together that we'll take the 215 parishes and we'll create 100 regions. Now, in this archdiocese, we call them regions. Some archdioceses, they're called clusters. But what it is, it means that we study the archdiocese and we look for parishes that geographically would be possible for those parishes to be served by one pastor. And already over the past 15 years, parishes have begun to share a pastor. For example, in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, where we have over 200 parishes, already more than 100 parishes share a pastor. And this creates special challenges for the pastors. It creates inconvenience, of course, even for the people. But at the same time, once again, reaching back to the resources, the lay ecclesial ministry, the permanent deacons, we can service these parishes. Some of our priests are going to need special skills to be able to manage to provide leadership for a number of parishes. And I'm committed, we as an archdiocese are committed to see to it that these priests they receive training to pick up those skills that are needed, and that they have the capacity to do well in providing leadership in multiple parishes.
And I think the training would be available also for the lay leaders. They're going to be certainly have to work out the details of how they function.
We see that already at the Athenaeum, that with the lay ministry programs, and we can look to the possibility of providing more opportunities in leadership be provided more on the parish basis as well.
And there's a sense of gratitude for the work that the folks are doing in these situations.
Well, and that's to be kept in mind too, is that it's not as though we are starting from scratch. I mean, as I travel around the Archdiocese, we've already come a long way in this new model of ministry for our parishes. The lay people have assumed, as I said earlier, many significant positions, both professionally and on the volunteer basis. And this is a tremendous resource for our parishes.
It's a wonderful opportunity for the church. Is there particular things that the Archdiocese is doing at this point in time to help us? I mean, you've talked to me about this a lot.
As you well know, it was approximately a year ago when we were talking about the Future Study, and that even though the Future Study has been with us for the last 6 years, we never had an individual who really was monitoring the application of the Future Study, as well as helping parishes prepare by creating resources. And so I asked you to assume that responsibility, and you've done an excellent job of studying the needs of our parishes, meeting with the parishes, and indicating too truly what we are looking forward to, what we look forward to in the future, as a matter of which regions will be created on a timeline and moving forward that way. So we move forward with that. We keep an eye on it. We will be meeting. You will be meeting with the parishioners on different levels to help them understand what exactly regionalization is all about, how we'll go about it, learn from them, hear from them, address their concerns. There are going to be concerns. You know, in some situations, there's even going to be some sadness, because it's very difficult for parishioners, if they lose their favorite Mass, or if they sense that they're losing their pastor, or in a few instances, we've even had to close parishes. But parishes are not closed unless the people come to a clear understanding that this is something that is necessary and is good for them and good for the ministry of the church. And you know, some people take to the change very well. They recognize that that the church is in a stream of time, and we can't stand still. That as times change, the needs for ministries change, the type of ministry, and some people move forward and see this as a new springtime of hope for the church. There are others, unfortunately, that the challenge just is too much for them, and the moving from the status quo too difficult, and they choose to go another way, and that's very sad. But we have to recognize it, and urge them, work with them, try to stay with them so that they too can understand what we are doing, truly we do for the good of the church.
And we're putting the tools in the hands of people so that when they get into the discussions that are difficult, they're helpful to them.
Yes.
in that. And my sense of your comments there is a continuing invitation for the people to stay at the table.
Always
stay
at the table.
On the journey the way we were talking about Emmaus.
Go back to Emmaus. Once the disciples took time to listen to Scripture, to meet Christ at table, they said our hearts were ablaze once again. In other words, this is when they finally discovered Christ's vision for the church, for his ministry, rather than what they had anticipated and what they were comfortable with. Once they had discovered that, their hearts were ablaze. There was a new life, a new energy, a new hope that they had never experienced before. And I am confident that that is where we are at this time. We have great leaders, lay leaders, clergy in our parishes, and I urge all of them to stay at the table and to voice their concerns candidly. We are listening, and we will get through this. It is a time when Christ is speaking to us still in Scripture, so we need to listen to that message of Christ. Christ comes to us. We meet him still at the table in the Eucharist and in the sacraments. And as long as we stay close to Christ, Christ continues to lead us and shows us the way and shows us what it is that he wants for this church in this day and time.
And we meet not only the Lord, but we meet one another on that journey, and
Correct.
That's a great thing.
We journey together.
Yeah. What would you have as maybe some final comments that you might want to share with the folks of the diocese?
I just simply, once again, thank them for this, for all that they do for the Archdiocese. And as you are aware, earlier this year I introduced the Prayer for Vocations, and that is a prayer that involves praying not only for vocations to the priesthood, but religious life, permanent diaconate, chaste single life, and for husbands and wives, that they model the love of Christ for his church. And that, that is necessary. That in that way we become a church that is truly holy, one that seeks the will of God in our individual lives. What is it? And so, yes, I'm very grateful to the people that for praying that prayer for vocations privately and as a community, a faith together. And I ask them as well, however, to remember the Archbishop. The Archbishop certainly is in need of prayers, and I want to assure them that as we move forward together, as we move forward in hope together, they are in my prayers as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.